The Dodgers organization was rocked by unprecedented news that sent shockwaves through the entire baseball world. Hart, Robleski, and Kim Hye-seong have all been traded to division rivals in a stunning move that nobody saw coming. But that's not all. The situation became even more serious when test results confirmed that both Will Smith and Tommy Edman would be permanently removed from the active roster due to worsening injuries. In response, manager Dave Roberts held an emergency meeting with the front office and executed what many are calling the team's biggest roster reinforcement of the season. What does this mean for the Dodgers' championship hopes? And why did the front office make such drastic decisions at this critical point in the season? Let's break down everything that happened. First, let's talk about the trades that shocked everyone. Hart, Robleski, and Kim Hye-seong being moved to division rivals wasn't just unexpected, it was strategically devastating from a competitive standpoint. These weren't fringe players or prospects buried in the farm system. Hart had been showing promise as a reliable bullpen arm, Robleski was viewed as a potential rotation piece for the future, and Kim Hye-seong was one of the most talked about international signings in recent Dodgers history. To see all three shipped out simultaneously, and to division rivals no less, raised immediate questions about what the front office was planning. What I found most interesting about these moves was the timing. The Dodgers are in the middle of a playoff push, and typically, teams in contention don't trade away assets to teams they'll be competing against directly. But here's the thing, the Dodgers clearly identified something more urgent. They needed immediate help, and they needed it now. Trading within the division is always risky because you're essentially strengthening your direct competitors. But the front office must have concluded that the return they were getting was worth that risk. That tells me they're thinking about this season, not next year or the year after. They're in win-now mode, and everything else is secondary. From a rival team's perspective, acquiring these three players is like striking gold. Hart brings bullpen depth with a live arm that can touch the upper 90s. Robleski offers versatility. He can start or relieve, and his breaking ball has shown real bite. And Kim Hye-seong? He's a dynamic infielder with speed, contact ability, and defensive range. Any division rival that landed one of these players would be thrilled. Getting all three spread across the division creates multiple problems for the Dodgers down the line. They'll face these players repeatedly in crucial divisional games, and every time one of them contributes to a rival's win, the second-guessing will intensify. But what forced the Dodgers' hand wasn't just a desire to shuffle the roster, it was necessity. The confirmed test results on Will Smith and Tommy Edman changed everything. Both players have been dealing with injuries throughout the season, but the hope was always that rest and treatment would bring them back. Now, with medical tests confirming the severity of their conditions, the organization had no choice but to remove them from the roster permanently for the remainder of the season. That's two everyday players, two core pieces of the lineup, suddenly gone. Smith, one of the best hitting catchers in baseball, and Edman, a versatile defender who could play multiple positions with elite glove work. Losing both creates enormous holes that can't just be papered over with minor league call-ups. What did you think when you first heard this news? I thought it felt like the kind of moment that defines a season. This is a crossroads. The Dodgers could have panicked, tried to patch things together with internal options, and hoped for the best. But instead, Dave Roberts and the front office took decisive action. That emergency meeting wasn't just about discussing options, it was about making hard decisions quickly. In baseball, hesitation during critical moments can cost you a championship. The Dodgers understood that, and they acted accordingly. So what exactly did they do? According to reports, the Dodgers executed their biggest roster reinforcement of the season. While the specific names haven't all been made public yet, sources indicate that the front office targeted both immediate major league help and depth pieces who could contribute right away. This wasn't about acquiring prospects or building for the future. This was about plugging holes and maintaining championship-caliber depth despite the devastating losses of Smith and Edman. The trades of Hart, Robleski, and Kim Hye-seong were clearly part of the price paid to acquire this help. What I want to commend is the Dodgers' willingness to be aggressive. It would have been easy to say, "We'll ride it out with what we have and see what happens." But championship organizations don't think that way. They identify problems, assess solutions, and execute without hesitation. The front office knew that losing Smith and Edman simultaneously was a catastrophic blow. Catching is already one of the thinnest positions in baseball in terms of quality options, and losing an all-star caliber catcher mid-season is nearly impossible to replace. Similarly, Edman's defensive versatility allowed Roberts to move pieces around the field strategically. Without him, the defensive alignment becomes more rigid and less adaptable. From a managerial perspective, this is really challenging. Roberts now has to integrate new players into a clubhouse that's already dealing with the emotional impact of losing teammates. Chemistry matters in baseball more than people realize. When you lose two popular, productive players and simultaneously bring in newcomers who need to learn systems, signs, and team culture quickly, there's an adjustment period. But Roberts has managed through adversity before. His ability to keep the clubhouse focused and maintain a winning culture even through roster turbulence has been one of his greatest strengths as a manager. What was particularly noteworthy wasn't just that moves were made, but how quickly they were executed. Emergency meetings can sometimes drag on for days, with back-and-forth negotiations stalling progress. But the Dodgers moved with urgency. That suggests they had contingency plans already in place. Smart front offices don't wait for disasters to happen, they prepare for worst-case scenarios ahead of time. When Smith and Edman's medical reports came back negative, the Dodgers likely already knew which teams to call and which players they were targeting. That kind of preparation is what separates championship organizations from the rest. Let's talk about the players who were traded away, because their departures carry significant emotional weight. Kim Hye-seong, in particular, was seen as a bridge between the Dodgers and their growing international fanbase, especially in Korea. His signing generated enormous excitement, and fans were eager to see him develop into an everyday player. Trading him away, especially to a division rival, will be difficult for some fans to accept. But here's the reality: the front office had to prioritize this season's championship window over future potential. If keeping Kim Hye-seong meant failing to adequately replace Smith and Edman, then the trade makes strategic sense, even if it's emotionally painful. Hart and Robleski represent a different kind of loss. Both are young pitchers with upside, and in today's game, pitching depth is invaluable. But again, the Dodgers clearly identified their immediate need as more pressing than long-term development. They have one of the best player development systems in baseball, which means they're confident in their ability to generate future pitching prospects. What they can't easily generate is a replacement-level catcher and versatile infielder mid-season when the trade market is thin. So they made the difficult choice to trade from depth to address immediate weakness. What do you think happens next? I think the Dodgers season now hinges entirely on how quickly the new acquisitions can contribute. If the reinforcements come in and perform immediately, this bold strategy will be celebrated as brilliant and decisive. But if there's an adjustment period, if the new players struggle or the replacements for Smith and Edman don't produce, the criticism will be intense. That's the nature of win-now moves. They're high risk, high reward. There's no middle ground. From a championship perspective, this is exactly the kind of situation that tests an organization's depth and resilience. The best teams aren't necessarily the ones with the most talent. They're the ones that can adapt when talent is taken away. The Dodgers have elite coaching, a strong clubhouse culture, and a track record of maximizing player performance. If any team can absorb these losses and still compete for a title, it's them. But make no mistake, this is a significant challenge. What I'm paying attention to is how the division rivals who acquired Hart, Robleski, and Kim Hye-seong utilize them. If these players become immediate contributors and help knock the Dodgers out of playoff positioning, the narrative around these trades will shift dramatically. The front office will face questions about whether they gave up too much, too quickly. But if the Dodgers' new acquisitions outperform expectations and the team maintains its position atop the division, then trading within the division won't matter. Winning will justify everything. The Cy Young and MVP races are important, but none of that matters if you don't make the playoffs. The Dodgers understand that. This emergency roster overhaul wasn't about individual accolades or future building, it was about survival and championship pursuit. Dave Roberts and the front office have made their statement. Now it's up to the players to execute on the field and prove that these difficult decisions were the right ones.